Good morning and welcome to Two Girls Treasure. I am Diane Pruitt, taking over the Rethunk Junk main page for just a little bit this morning. I'm a little bit late. Someone removed me from the page. I'm back. I love these products and I want to show you a really quick tutorial this morning on how to use the Rethunk Junk stain top products. Now, people ask me, why is it called stain top? Well, because usually you stain the top of something, but it's a topper. It goes over just about everything. If you have a painted surface, you're probably not going to get the same effect from stain top that you would if you had a not painted surface. Now, it's possible, don't get me wrong, you just have to take a few more steps than you would normally take if you had a non-painted surface. Now, this beautiful little serpentine secretary came to us from a dear friend, and it has been sitting in a garage for quite a long time. The wood is very dry. You can see the drawers have a nice shine to them. That's a veneer product over the wood. But this top drop down is really dry. It's really faded. When you run your hand over it, it doesn't feel really good at all. Let's dress this back up and give it a new life. It's a clawfoot, and so it's absolutely gorgeous, and it deserves to live again in a beautiful way. If you stop in this morning to see this tutorial, say hello. Let me know where you're from and who your local stockist is. This is the dark walnut stain. I felt like this would be the best color to revive this wood. Now, I've already taken off most of the hardware. It's bad, y'all. It's really dusty, dingy. It's got a film of just 25 years of dust over the top of it. So I dropped it down in the cup, and I don't like wasting my prep. But I'll tell you the quickest, easiest way to clean your hardware quickly is to pour your prep into the cup, cover that hardware, and just swish it around for a while. While we're working on the secretary, we're gonna let the hardware sit around in the prep. Don't leave it in there too long. It's not gonna damage it, it's not gonna eat your metal up, but you'll forget about it. Don't forget about your hardware. Let it sit in that prep, and you can already see just from that few seconds it was in there, it's gonna clean up really well. But we're gonna set that to the side. I'm gonna give you an overhead view of this secretary. Absolutely beautiful finished piece. So we've got the hardware off, and one of the things that you'll notice first when you take hardware off an old piece of furniture is that you still have the impression of the old hardware on your surface. Hey Mel, you want to turn that down a little bit?
Yes, ma'am.
We've got the music on, but it's louder than I am, and I'm loud. You'll always see the impression of the hardware because the hardware's been on there for 10 forevers, and that's what the wood used to look like. Let's get it back to that. But because it looks like that, you've got a two-tone finish right here. And if you stain over that, let's go to the overhead view so you can see really well. If you stain over that, what you're gonna get is a two-tone finish because you've got the place where the hardware was and the beautiful wood finish that it used to be, and then you've got the piece that everybody has touched and that has aged. You see it? You don't want that because your stain won't balance that out. The stain will go over that. You'll still have two tones. Now, why does that matter if you're going to put the hardware back on? Well, it shouldn't, but if you're particular like me, it matters. If you're going to change the hardware, it matters. So let's grab our scrubby pad and our bottle of prep. Now this also has an extra piece of hardware on it, and I'll show you how to take this off without damaging the hardware or your surface. First thing I'm going to do is try to get this dirt off the top edge where that hardware was. It makes a little ridge. So I'm going to take the scrubby, I'm going to go over the surface, and I'm just going to smooth that out. Just like that. I'll take my clean cloth and I'll wipe over it. Normally I would even take the prep and do it one more time. And I will in just a minute, but I want to show you taking these off. These have little brad nails in them. They don't come through the back, they're only on the front. And if you're not careful, when you remove this piece, you'll damage either the piece or those brad nails. So you've got to be careful taking those off. Take your flat screwdriver. I'm going to spin this drawer around a little bit. Take your flat screwdriver and just go around your edges until you find the weakest link. And what I mean by that is the place where it will allow you to get underneath it. And as delicate a job as this is, you've got a choice. You can leave it alone or you can take it off. If you ever decide that you wanted to change what this is, you really want to take this off. Now I got one edge loose right there. You don't want to scar the wood, so be gentle with it. Be very gentle with it. These old pieces were very well crafted, very well thought out. And I know everybody doesn't love this style of hardware, but you know what? It is classic. And I love the old hardware just as much as I love the old furniture. Now you can see there's a lot of crust around that escutcheon. So let's spray it again. And I'm going to go ahead and spray the whole surface. There we go. All right, that's a lot of prep. Don't worry about using too much prep. There's no such thing. Go ahead and take your scrubby and get all of the dirt and the dust and the ridge edge of that original finish. Go ahead and get that off there. And in order to balance the difference between what used to be there for the original finish and what's there now with the aged finish, I'm gonna do most of this, and I'll do my best to leave these spots alone. That way I'll have stain across all of this area. And once that first coat dries and I put my second coat on, we'll use that second coat as a blend to try to match the tone of the wood all the way across so that we don't have a different finish. And I recommend it, especially if you ever intend to change the hardware. When you grab your stain top, you not only want to shake it, but you want to stir it. And I'll show you why. I've had customers come back and say, this looks purple. Well, it has a little tint to it. But if you don't stir well, what you're going to have is a lot of pigment in the bottom. Now, I've shaken and I've stirred really well, so this should be just fine. Got my little plastic spoon, and I'm just going to scrape the bottom and stir really well. You want to make sure you do that so you get all the good color, so that you don't have any chunks or flakes, because that can happen when your stain sits up and doesn't get used for a long time. Do you ever read the directions on these jars? I don't. I just follow the tutorials and roll through, right? This is thin, And it says it right on the back. Ooh, I spilled it. Look at that. It is so thin that if you're not careful, you'll do just what I did and you'll spill it out. So, oh, I got it all over me, Mel. It's on the floor. I think I got my shoes. I was jealous because Mel painted her shoes. But it's very thin, and it's supposed to be. And it says that on there. Cover your entire piece and then continue brushing until coverage is even. But don't overwork it. Even is even. Once you get it even, leave it alone. And once you get the tone that you like, then stop. You don't have to go until it's like pitch black finish. Just get your stain on there, little at a time, a nice even coat. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to come around that part. And there's a little bit of pooling because of the shape of the drawer. So you want to make sure that you keep that from running and pooling up, or that's what you're going to have. And look, just a simple, easy brush on. And let's let that dry, because that's a beautiful finish. But what we want is to even out the tone from the wood to where the hardware used to be. Because if I change the hardware on here, I don't want that to show. There's gonna be a little ghosting. This thing's over 100 years old. It's gonna show something. A lot of times I'll use our stain pads. If you've never used these, they are amazing. So that was not hard to do because that was standing up, right? This is not. Sometimes I'll use the stain pad, and that helps when the stain is running down. This keeps it from running all the way down and making streaky lines. So let's grab our flat screwdriver and let's find the weakest spot on this escutcheon, and let's try to get this off here without scarring the wood. There should be a nice little spot right here. I've got my fingernail behind it so I can get, there we go. Got the screwdriver behind it. And we'll drop this right over into the container with the other hardware that's soaking in the prep. That way it'll be nice and clean. If you have any questions about using stain, now's the time to ask. If I can't see your questions or your comments, there will be someone else with Rethunk Junk, whether it's another retailer or Rochelle or even Laura herself. Doesn't make me nervous when she watches. Tom, whole different story. I always get in some kind of trouble. Let's see. We'll take this one off as well. Oh, I think I found the weak spot on this side this time. Nope, right back over here. Have you used stain on a project? You know, some of this old furniture just begs to be painted because there's damage to it. Some of it there's damage to, but it's repairable damage. This piece had some damaged veneer, and I repaired it, but it's just begging to be stained and not painted. So we will see what we can do to make this a beautiful finish one more time. And we're going to use our prep, a scrubby pad, a clean cloth, and our Rethunk Junk dark walnut stain. You can find your stain tops from your local retailer, or you can find them online at rethunkjunkbylaura.com. If you're local to the Florence, South Carolina area and you want to work with these products, stop in. We'll teach you how, we'll do the tutorials, and we'll sell you the product. We'll make sure that you have beautiful home furnishings and decor using one of the easiest, simplest products there is on the market, Rethunk Junk Paint. I'm a little biased. It's my favorite thing to work with. I'm gonna move my stain pad. I'm done with my screwdriver, and I'm gonna spray this down really well with prep. Now my prep is gonna run off the edges because we're standing up, we're vertical now. Horizontal, you don't have to worry so much. You have to worry about the pooling, and I can see it pooling up right there in that serpentine center. So I'm gonna drag this back over, and I'm gonna take my stain pad, and I'm just gently going to smooth out that pooling. There we go. Problem solved. All right. Now I'll take my scrubby pad, and we're gonna clean this real quickly. Let's get all of that dirt and age off that we can. If you need more prep, you know what? Don't worry about using too much. I don't think there's any such thing as too much prep on your project. This really deep cleans, and it gets your project ready so that once you stain it or paint it, you know it's gonna stay right where you put it. I'm even gonna come up here and I'm gonna prep the top of this. Ladies, y'all are welcome to come around this side right here if you wanna see how this goes.
We don't want to be in the video.
Well, the video's on me, so you can stand right there. So what I'm doing is prepping this. It's a product called the Prep, and it cleans the furniture so you can paint it or stain it once you're done spraying the prep on. You can't smell it, can you? It's safe to use. All of the Rethunk Junk Paint products and everything in the line of Rethunk Junk that we use is water-based, eco-friendly, low or no VOCs. So if you have asthma, sinuses, anything that would cause you breathing issues or concerns, this won't bother you, aggravate your condition at all. And just like that, that piece is clean. Now once I get done with the scrubby pad, I'll spray it again and I'll wipe it down with the clean cloth. That way if there's any grit left over from the Scotch-Brite, you won't feel it on here and it won't be on here because we want a really smooth surface. So once these are cleaned and all that dirt and that ridge is gone from where the hardware was living, we'll be ready to stain these drawers with our first coat. I'll brush it on, and then I'll use the stain pad to make sure that it doesn't run because we're on a vertical surface. This is so dry, it's just eating up the prep. But we'll fix that in just a minute. There we go. All done spraying. There we go. Let's use our clean cloth. We'll wipe this down. We'll wipe that out. Wipe the drawers down one more time. Again, there's no such thing as using too much prep on your project. Prep it well, and your finish will be amazing. I'm going to scrub a little bit harder on this bottom drawer. There we go. All right. I will put it on with the brush. I will smooth it out with the stain pad. Not too much, just enough. You see how it runs immediately? It's a nice thin product. I'm going to go right over the top of that escutcheon. If I want to take it off later, I'll balance it out. But it's over my head and I can't really reach it. All right, a little bit more. Catch the runs. Brush it on. Just get it on there. Now I'll take my stain pad, and I'm not trying to wipe it off. I'm just trying to smooth it and create an even finish all the way across. This is going to be beautiful. I'll go down the edges, across the top edge, and down the other side. And I'll just take what's on my stain pad and I'll catch that little lip underneath. That stain pad makes it really easy because it's flexible and it's nice and soft and squishy. So it makes it really easy to get in those small creviced areas. And there is our drawer front. Now I'm not going to be able to avoid the areas where the hardware was on these because we're vertical. We'll just cover it over. And it's most likely, because I love the old hardware, it's most likely that I will use the original hardware once I get it clean. I might change the tone by using some Rethunk Junk metallics on it, but I'm a fool for original hardware. And I think this piece is so old and just a beautiful ladies serpentine writing desk that it deserves to be respected for what it was intended. So let's just restain this piece and make it beautiful again. And just like that, we're not wiping the stain off, we're just smoothing it. And this is contrary to every other stain product I've ever used in my life. You rub it in with a rag and then you'll wipe the excess off. This is not the same. You will come up with some excess, but you're not trying to wipe it off. You just want it smooth. You don't want runs and drips. This is not a thick oil-based product or even a thick water-based product. This is a nice, thin water-based product, and it does an amazing job quickly and effectively. Now let's take a look. I'm gonna dust this off because my scrubby does a job on my table. And my workbench is covered with scrubby dust. Scrubby dust is the dust you get after you have scrubbed a piece clean, which is why I always go back and do the second application of prep. If you clean your surface and you use the scrub pad, you have to know there's going to be a little bit of grit left. And if you want a nice smooth finish, make sure you do that second application of prep, wipe it with a clean cloth, and then proceed with your stain. All right, let me see what this drawer looks like now. All right, it's looking pretty good, isn't it? But you can sure see where that hardware was. You see what I mean? Let's do a second application and see if that balances out any better. Because this particular drawer, I did not put the first coat over the areas where the hardware was. And because this is a veneer, and most of these style desks have a veneer over the surface, if you really want those marks gone, then lightly sand the entire surface until those marks are gone, but don't sand hard because you will break through the veneer. And if you break through the veneer, you're going to have a whole other host of problems to deal with. Gently and smoothly, I think that second coat is going to cover well, but looking at it, you can see it right there. We may even need a third coat to cover those escutcheon marks. I'll set that to the side. This is not quite dry, but if Mel will step around that other side, I bet she can help me flip this around and we'll touch the side of this. So let's bring this edge around toward me. There we go. Thanks, Mel.
That all?
That's it.
All right.
This is really dry. Let's get some prep on there. I'll move my stain. And let's spray this really well. It has those beautiful ball and claw feet on it. And this is so dry. The finish on this is just gone. But I'm gonna prep it really well just because we don't want any of that old finish that's flaking to come off in our stain. I'm not going to scrub this because I don't want the dust from the scrubby pad all over my drawers, and really there's not anything there to scrub off. It's just dry. The finish is gone, and there's nothing to do but clean it and stain it. All right, now we'll have a real good demonstration of how thin this stain is and how it moves. We've got about 10 minutes left, so I'll probably stop right here with this side. Let's get that stain on there. It's dripping down when I'm brushing it on. So it's always a good idea if you're doing this in the house. I always recommend to my customers, grab a really inexpensive shower curtain, lay it down, and then lay down your drop cloth over the top of that. That way, if you spill anything, the drop cloth will absorb it, and the shower curtain will create a barrier so that it doesn't soak through. Because you don't want this to soak through onto your different colored floors, or then not only will you stain your piece of furniture, but you'll be staining your floors and explaining why. So let's not do that. Let's take that stain pad and let's smooth that stain out and cover it completely. This is going to be a beautiful piece of furniture finished in dark walnut stain, and it will live another beautiful 100 years. Can you believe some of this furniture is that old? And if you love the style, all you have to do to respect it is give it a little bit of rethunk junk finish. Look how beautiful that's going to be. Now, when I use the stain top, and when you use it also, use a brush, use your stain pad, but don't use a foam brush. Foam brushes create bubbles, and bubbles have a tendency to stay where you put them, especially if you use a fan to dry your stain. Now, you might see me use a fan all the time with paint, but I rarely ever use a fan when I'm doing a stained project. Why? It's just a habit, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I remember hearing Tom Whitlow say, don't use a fan over the stain or the tough top. I could be wrong, but in my mind, that's what I always heard, so that's what I always do. This is going to take a little while to dry. It's a really, really dry wood surface, so it's absorbing what I'm putting on there. And just because it's absorbing it doesn't mean it's drying. It's just soaking into the wood, and it's going to be wet for a little while. So what we're going to do is hop off here and let you get to your local retailer today, because you still have time to buy your paint products, get your stain top, prep your piece, and finish it in time for dinner. Grab a sandwich for lunch while you're out, and that way you won't be hungry while you're working. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Rethunk Junk main page. When I'm finished with this, I'll post some beautiful pictures so you can see just exactly how amazing Rethunk Junk stain top products can be on your home furnishings. I'm Diane at Two Girls Treasure. We're in Florence, South Carolina, one of your authorized Rethunk Junk retailers. We're all over the country. Check that retailer locator and find your local retailer, or order online at rethunkjunkbylaura.com and get your products today. We'll see you again real soon.